Hello from Bali. This is the podcast Pigeon of Peace where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about technologies and let's start with the definition.
Technology is something which surrounds us. There is a saying that everything in our world is divided for science and technology. For our purpose, maybe I will say in another way, in another manner, everything could be divided for magic and technology. By the way, there is a law of futuristic law, and this sentence could be pronounced like this: any advanced technology always looking like to be a magic. For example, when you see how bread is cooked, or maybe bakery,
Or
how
baked.
or baked, yes, thank you. When you, for example, will see as your 3D printer will produce some machine part from almost nothing, from the scratch, it's very unusual. Or maybe you will see how the plane is flying. You know, my father is a military pilot, and it was, I don't know, maybe like maybe 30 years ago, we were talking about planes, and I asked him something, and suddenly he turned his face directly to me, and he says, "You know, I am a pilot, and I know how to fly, but you know, by the technology, by the science, I don't know how to say that, but this bug which is flying in our territories in May bug, I know how to say."
Maybach, we could call it like this.
Okay, May bug. This creature should not fly because of aerodynamics, but this bug doesn't know about those law, and it is flying.
So when we actually speak about the technology, like it's obviously there should be a border when it becomes from, like something that people just know how to do, maybe, like here and there, maybe, like some sort of like a mechanics or motions, and then they combine it something so that it would be called technology. So when there is like a borderline from simplicity to, like something that could be, like complex, or there is no borderline, and obviously, like whatever surrounds us, even the way we do like a certain levers actually could be called technology.
I like to think that there is no border. Do you know there's a term which would be like a seamless, бесшовный, seamless, yes?
Seamless.
Thank you. There is a term which I like a lot. For example, how do you know there is difference between a medical cure and mana spell? It's almost like something very unusual. I read a book about Africa, and it was a missionary. He was arriving to one African country, and suddenly after his third visit, he found that a lot of people who were, I don't know how to say, like African bosses, leaders, вожди,
Chiefs.
chiefs of those tribes, they were sitting with newspaper, but this newspaper was upside down. So they do not know what white people do, but they were all day sitting with, for example, coffee, cigar, and those newspapers. And another example, he was taking some pills. And at one point, he didn't know why, but he just put this pill and put this on the finger and was pressing to forehead. And suddenly, after several weeks, he found that a lot of African chiefs, they also were using these pills, but not in the mouth. And after you will swallow some sip of water, but they were pressing this to forehead.
And actually, when we speak about, like applying the technology, so what might be the areas of what might be the scale and what might be the cases when one technology may in fact consist of many others? So again, like speaking about the borderlines, when one technology moves to another one and when it could be also applied as well.
Maybe you remember we were recording a podcast about origami. This is Japanese art to складывать,
Fold.
to fold paper in different forms. For example, like журавлик, how to say,
Crane.
like a crane or maybe like a frog or some else figures. And you know why it was so popular? Because paper was almost with the same price as money by themselves. But now we have technology and we could produce as many paper as we like. So in any flat, in any office, you will find a bunch of different kind of paper in notebooks, in some block notes, and etc. The same, for example, we could talk about condoms. If I would be asked if there is something very important on earth, I would say that maybe pills against unwanted pregnancy and condoms, this is very important. You know why? Because a lot of 20,000 years or even more, some women were raped by foreigners, by enemies, and they do not want to have those babies. But now we have a very easy way how to avoid this.
And it's actually quite interesting because I do remember certain books or maybe movie, they were saying that actually you can do a lot of things with the condoms along with their straight designation as well. And when we speak about like all of the things that, you know, like one person who, let's call them like a constructor or a creator, needs to know in order to, you know, like take something and out of where appear, you know, like some sort of like a devices or maybe processes of whatever. So in terms of understanding how the nature, how the physics, how the chemistry works, like what kind of level of depth is needed at least in order to build the parts and make them moving?
Let's give some task to our listeners and watchers. There is a term which means like pharaoh snake. If you will type this in Google, you find some very fancy video. In this, you will see like something would be dropped on a surface, and suddenly you will see like a huge something from nowhere will appear. And this has a name. This phenomenon has a name, pharaoh snake. So if you know physics, if you know chemistry, if you know math, it's all-time magic. For example, there is a lot of tasks or questions which would be asked, for example, in a school. For example, take your year of birth, then add something, then divide something, then multiply something, then odd something, which type odd, yes?
Oh, that's a good one.
And then suddenly you will give an answer and the person will say, oh, come on, Maxim, you was born at such a year. And if you don't know math, you will think, oh, it's so funny how this person do it. For example, the same we have with speed counting. I like it a lot. For example, if you want to multiply two digits numbers like 16 multiplied by 16, how to say возвести в квадрат? To put into the square.
Put it to the square.
Put to square. It's very easy. It's technology. You should put the same digit, but at 0. So first part would be like 160. Then you should use second digit and also add a 0. It would be like 160 was first, second would be just 60, and last one would be last digit in the square. So if you want to multiply 16 to 16, you should add just 3 digits, 160, 60, and 36. And in addition, you will get this immediately. And if you will think, it's so easy, but not too many people know. And you know, it's a very good one. Sometimes I would be asked by my wife or by my pupil, by my students, how to do something. And you know, it's so good to know some very small trick, and in a short way, in a shortcut, you will get the answer in something, in business, in personal life, or in psychology, in philosophy. And each time you will think, okay, in this case, you should understand that creativity and knowledge is the ultimate power.
It's actually quite interesting because sometimes, yes, there might be some sort of like a life hacks, or I think they also call this like a street smart or whatever, so that, you know, like you can demonstrate it. For example, sometimes there might be the cases when you can open the bottle of wine is with a shoe and people would be surprised. But like if you know about, you know, like how to press stuff and like what is the hydra strike that could affect the liquid, then actually, you know, like the cork will easily pop up. And there also was a thing, and I think it also was a funny, the person was saying, you know, like some people think that glass is half full, some people think that the glass is half empty. I think that I can use the glass to throw to people. meaning that like sometimes technologies also could be used like in not so good way. So what might be the measures, what might be like protection, or what might be the sanctions against like using technology not for good causes?
I will say that technology will impact in your life or at your life in those cases when you could do something impossible. For example, if you will use wing, you wouldn't fly like iCar. But if you will sit on the plane, it's quite unusual. This is a very huge machine which will fly you over off the planet with a very high speed. Or another kind of technique, this is submarine. So you will sit on a U-boat and then you will go down and you will flow through the complete ocean, and you will suddenly will appear at another coast in another country. And one more. Sometime, for example, maybe you will lose your car, or maybe your bicycle, or maybe your dog, and you will come to a special police station, and they will immediately will find this by video cameras, with comparing your photo in your smartphone with video raw which was recorded for very long time. And when you see this, you will be very grateful to those people who create this. But are you able by yourself, or I'm by myself, to create something so useful as we could implement in our life for on daily basis? No one knows. For example, someone was invented just computer mouse, and now we couldn't live without it. Or maybe trackpad, or maybe, I don't know, memory stick.
And then my last question will be how knowing about technology could help to make this world a better place.
If you know how was invented some very important things, for example, steamboat, or maybe just usual pencil, or maybe powder, in those cases, maybe you will be able to improve something or create something on the basis of this. When I was at university, suddenly I knew that if you want to be inventor, it is not necessary that you will every part of your invention create by yourself. Sometimes you could be inventor just by using another vein of combining well-known things. And this is also technology, how to invent the future.
And this, and we review the skill of technology and how it could be helpful to you. Stay in peace.